The Indiana Fever had just delivered the moment their fans had been waiting nearly a decade for. Against all odds, with half their rotation sidelined, they had finally secured a playoff win. The scene should have been pure celebration. Kelsey Mitchell leading with fire, Aaliyah Boston holding the paint with poise, and Lexi Hull delivering the clutch steal that sealed the game. Team's resilience and grit were undeniable. Yet instead of those heroics dominating the headlines, the spotlight shifted to a bizarre, frustrating sideshow that exposed the WNBA's ongoing credibility crisis. Because while the Fever basked in the joy of their long-awaited triumph, Sophie Cunningham, out injured, wearing a bulky leg brace standing at midcourt, was suddenly confronted not by an opponent, but by a league security guard who decided she was a problem. Sophie wasn't charging the court. She wasn't starting a fight. She was waiting, watching, supporting her teammates. And still, a guard stepped up, barked at her like she was storming the floor, and turned what should have been a joyful scene into an avoidable fiasco. The footage spread instantly across social media. Clips showed Sophie, visibly confused, then annoyed, as the guard tried to move her back. Her expression shifted into that infamous Cunningham glare, the one that says, "Really? This is what you're doing right now." She didn't budge. She didn't retreat. She simply stood her ground and waited. Within minutes, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube lit up with outrage. Fans weren't mad at Sophie. They were furious with the league. To them, it wasn't enforcement. It was harassment. And the timing couldn't have been worse. Indiana had just pulled off a dramatic win despite missing Caitlin Clark, Chendi Carter, Sydney Colson, Chloe BBY, Damaris Dantas, and Sophie herself. Fans were buzzing. The energy was electric. This was supposed to be a moment to highlight resilience, team chemistry, and the Fever's return to relevance. Instead, the viral conversation became Sophie versus Mall Cop. The optics were brutal. An injured player in a leg brace, treated like a threat by someone who looked more intent on escalating than protecting. For many fans, it wasn't just a one-off overreaction. It was another piece of evidence in a troubling pattern that has followed Sophie for years. She has long been cast as the league's villain, mocked by rival fans, dismissed by certain media outlets, and now apparently singled out by league staff. Why? Because she doesn't fit the mold. She doesn't toe the WNBA's party line. She's outspoken, unapologetic, and refuses to soften her edges to make people comfortable. This is why her fan base is so vocal. Sophie trends on Twitter almost weekly. Her clips generate clicks. Her interviews go viral. She's polarizing, yes, but polarizing in a way that keeps people talking. For most leagues, that's good business. But in the WNBA, she's often treated as a nuisance. When Angel Reese gets into confrontations, it's framed as passion. When Paige Buecher shows fire, it's leadership. But when Sophie Cunningham does it, suddenly it's a problem. The double standard is glaring, and fans are calling it out. The backlash was immediate. Hashtags like #FreeSophie and #WNBAExposed began trending. Comment sections filled with fans accusing the league of playing favorites, of trying to sideline personalities they couldn't control. Some pointed to race. Others highlighted culture. Many asked the obvious. If this had been Reese or Buecher's in Sophie's spot, would the reaction have been the same? Most agreed it wouldn't. And that's where the damage stretches beyond Sophie. 'Cause casual fans, the newcomers pulled in by Caitlin Clark's star power, were watching too. Many had tuned in for the Fever's playoff run, only to see league security treating an injured player like a criminal. Instead of talking about Lexi Hull's game-winning steal, they were talking about Sophie versus the rent-a-cop. For a league desperate to grow, that's poison. The WNBA has already faced criticism for failing to protect Clark on the court, allowing her to be hacked, shoved, and taunted without consistent whistles. They've faced criticism for pushing certain narratives while ignoring others. Now this incident adds another layer. It reinforces the perception that the league doesn't know how to handle stars who don't fit their script. Instead of embracing players like Clark and Sophie, marketable, polarizing, attention-grabbing, they marginalize them. And every time they do, fans grow more disillusioned. What makes it worse is how Sophie handled the entire situation. She didn't scream. She didn't lash out. She stood firm, glared, and refused to be intimidated. That restraint, that quiet defiance, only amplified her supporters. Fans flooded her social media with messages of solidarity. To them, Sophie had once again proven why they loved her. She doesn't fold even when the league stacks the deck against her. Then came her actual response. In typical Cunningham fashion, she brushed the whole thing off with humor. She joked about sweating through the game, admitted how nervous she was, and said the league's anger only fueled the Fever's fire. No angry rant. No victim card. Just a reminder that she controls her own narrative. And that's the irony here. The more the league tries to paint her as a problem, the stronger her base becomes. Every attempt to minimize her only makes her more popular. But this isn't just about Sophie. It's about the WNBA's credibility. The Fever's playoff win should have been a triumph, an undermanned team pulling off the impossible. Instead, the conversation is about a security guard barking at an injured player. It's about selective enforcement, selective outrage, and selective protection. It's about a league that claims to want growth but keeps tripping over its own double standards. Fans aren't dumb. They see the favoritism. They see the hypocrisy. And they're tired of it. That's why outrage poured in not just at the guard, but at Commissioner Kathy Engelbert herself. Comment sections ripped her leadership, with some fans going as far as calling her the head of the most embarrassing league in professional sports. For them, this wasn't just one bad look. It was proof of a broken system, a league more focused on controlling narratives than celebrating the game. And here's the real tragedy. The Fever's win was incredible. Mitchell's leadership, Boston's dominance, Hull's heroics, these are the stories that should have defined the night. This was Indiana's chance to step back into the spotlight as contenders. But all of that got overshadowed. Once again, the WNBA managed to turn its own moment of triumph into a viral embarrassment. Sophie Cunningham didn't storm the court. She didn't break the rules. She stood at midcourt in a brace, caring about her team. That was her crime. And yet she became the center of another league-created controversy. The fans have already made their judgment. Sophie was wronged. The league looks ridiculous. And once again, instead of celebrating basketball, we're stuck talking about chaos the WNBA brought on itself. Do you think Sophie Cunningham is being singled out? Or was this just an overreaction from one overzealous guard? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe Sophie and the Fever deserve better, show your support by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and turning on all notifications. Because this story isn't over, and you won't want to miss what comes next.